Got it.
All right. Hello to each and all out there in video land and Zoom meeting land. And I have AJ with me. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, George Henry. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Let me turn my volume up just a hair. If I can find the right button here. My my Mac was refurbished when I got it, and it's gone through a process of gradual decay. So
Right.
my volume settings are not very easy to figure out, but I mean they still work. So
You're coming through loud and clear,
yeah,
good definition, your voice somewhat resembling a radio broadcaster from yesteryear.
yesteryear. Yeah. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, you and I are older guys, and
That's a good thing.
yeah, and I hope I can connect with young people. My youngest person that I consider a personal friend is 40 years younger than I am. So,
Hmm.
and we're not necessarily as close as we used to be, but there's not as much mutual need, so to speak,
Yeah.
for the listening ear and well, I don't know, whatever the whole interpersonal transaction thing was about years ago is it's
Right.
things change over time and it's fine. I mean, I still highly regard that person and we're still in each other's universes and on each other's radar,
Yeah.
just more in the periphery now than we were some years ago.
Right. And that's a natural phenomenon.
Yeah,
This so called quote generation gap, unquote. Nevertheless, there are a whole batch of amazing younger people these days. You can see a lot of them on TikTok, and the things they post are analogous to observations older cats like you and I have been making.
yeah,
So, times like this, there seems to be a diminishment of this so called generation gap. And that's a beautiful thing because when you combine young with old, one has an unstoppable spirit of humanity when young and old find mutual understanding. That's a beautiful thing.
yes, very much so. And also, I follow certain people on YouTube and other social media, I guess. And some of them are quite a bit younger than I am, and that's fine. I'm learning from them. I appreciate them very much.
Hmm.
And I give them my unqualified or minimally qualified support.
Listen, this old folk aphorism quote, one is never too old to learn, unquote.
Oh, very true. Yeah.
This is the essence of humility, to
Right.
listen and to understand. I'm never too old to learn.
Yeah.
It's
It,
true.
it is. And also at the same time, the people with more years of experience and who've had a chance to mellow. Yeah, it's part of learning, I think. Have something to contribute and can advise younger people many times in ways that are really mutually beneficial. I had a young friend some years
Absolutely.
ago, sorry, but anyway, it's a young guy, and he sort of looked up to me as almost an uncle, right?
Yeah.
And it was, in a sense, a very one-sided relationship because he would come to me and talk about various problems, which he felt that he couldn't talk to his parents about. But I didn't mind, you know, spending a fair amount of time with him and going over his concerns.
Yeah.
And it was good for me in a way too. Although, like on the surface level, it was all me giving and him receiving, but there was a feedback that wasn't quite as obvious that was valuable to me.
Yeah.
So, well, that's an interesting kind of
That's
subject.
the nature of, I've found, being a educator in the public schools here out on the West Coast for over 30 years. That is the nature I have found, what you just described, of the teacher student relationship.
Yeah,
It goes both ways. And what is essential and what I have found lacking, to generally speak, in the public school system here is a lack of discipline. Discipline cannot be absent if the goal is learning in the classroom. Discipline must be a component of that equation. It's just respect. That's all that I found means is respect. Because when my students came to understand that I respected them,
yeah,
they then began listening and following my various protocols. And then the cornucopia just started pouring in. That is learning, the cornucopia of learning. It just started pouring in. It was a golden age of learning.
super,
That's
man.
what we're on now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, it's time.
It is.
It's very timely right now. And if we accept, and it makes sense to me, and it accords with my observations, that there's a planetary awakening going on, which affects people
Unquestionably.
from 8 to 80 or 9 to 90, 10 to 100, whatever. And across the globe, really, right? So we have an opportunity to all grow together. And the purpose of my reaching out to people, whether it's through YouTube, Substack, personal emails, and I'll circle back to that in a moment, but whatever it is, well, you know, here's the dynamic for me. I feel called to be a conduit for information. And some of that information is merely absorbing, learning, processing, integrating it into, I don't know, my own worldview, and then trying to also imagine other people with their worldviews. And I'm familiar with some different worldviews. You know, I've gone through a few myself and had people in my family and my friends and work associates and what have you who've been on a lot of holding a lot of positions on the big chessboard of life.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm trying to relate. Um, Always we have to try to relate to others, but
absolutely.
trying to bring the knowledge of the broader context as I'm learning it to people of all kinds.
No man is an island. That's so true. There may be a very small percentage of humanity, very small, that is content and satisfied to truly be reclusive, but most people, we need others in our life.
Right. I'm going to take this opportunity. I mean, that what you just said stimulated what follows. Okay. It's not
Okay.
non sequitur. It might sort of appear to be, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a gentleman I follow on Substack, and I will post a link to his article in the description for this video. What is it? Philosophy of Freedom, I think is the name of his Substack. But he posted an article saying we don't need a leader. We need a good idea that everybody can get behind.
Yeah.
And I understand where he's coming from.
Sure.
But the reality is we're not, I mean, leaders are going to exist, right?
This is part of human organization.
Yeah.
Leaders, very important part.
Yeah. Yeah. So also what came up in my reminiscence, well, you might remember, I don't know if you were aware of it. Most people, I think many people were, many people who were curious about what was going on in the world. But you remember Michael Tellinger and Ubuntu contributionism? Did you ever study that to any degree?
That rings a bell. Refresh my memory.
Yeah, so Michael's philosophy was that we could get rid of money and for the basic needs of life, we could institute essentially a barter system so that you would have essentially the world to be divided into villages. Well, right there, you're kind of, I don't know. I mean, I may be mischaracterizing it because it's been some years since I read the book.
Yeah.
But but basically, most of his thinking was oriented around small communities,
Yeah.
so, as far as I recall. So the idea would be, well, we need people to swab the floors, we need people to take out the garbage, we need people to, dig in the garden and pull weeds and various things, right?
Yeah.
So the village elders would come up with a system whereby everybody's food, clothing, shelter needs, and a few other
Yeah.
things would be met if they would contribute so many hours, or some sort of unit of work on a regular basis to supporting the village.
Yeah.
And that's a fine idea. I don't necessarily agree, though, that money is in itself, the problem.
Yeah. I don't agree with that notion either.
Anyway, I was just sort of entertaining the idea of revisiting contributionism, but I saw that somewhere on the internet, somebody was interviewing, I think Michael again about Ubuntu contributionism. So it's an idea that's not going away, but it's also an idea that's not getting very far, very fast, if at all. Yeah, the idea was, well, if we could just get one little town running on this system, then people would see the advantages and it would spread like wildfire. But no, that
Yeah.
hasn't really happened. But anyway, back to Mr. Philosophy of Freedom and the idea.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine, but the world does not work that way. I think what we're going to see is Trumpism, so to speak. You can call it that. But a lot of the basic ideas that he campaigned on, and the American people said, yeah, we're more than ready for that because the opposite certainly hasn't worked. That's going to spread. And the world's not going to be turned upside down overnight. It's not going to be,
No.
as my granny used to say, fruit basket turnover. No. We want to maintain stability. So we're
Yes,
going to have to maintain a connection to the way things have been done, but we're going to have
yes,
to clean it up, reform it, improve it, and use the good parts of it as a you know, platform or standing on the
yes,
shoulders of giants, so to speak,
yes.
to move forward.
Like the blueprint of what was written up for the foundation of this country.
Yeah.
That, in my research, is the best blueprint I've read about how to organize a disparate group of people into one healthy, functioning community. And we have unique circumstances. We've got the Atlantic Ocean to the east, we've got the Pacific Ocean to the west. There
Dare I
are
say?
great advantages
Yeah.
of having two moats like that on either side. It is a fact that communities who did not practice the military sciences, those communities who lacked those sciences, quickly disappeared
Yeah.
from the face of the earth. And so having these moats on either side of our landmass. Now, one can argue about manifest destiny and so forth.
Right. Yeah. You know, at
A
this
lot
point,
of wrong things were
yeah,
done.
yeah,
Promises, treaties made, treaties broken.
yeah,
But
yeah.
back to
We have
this,
to work from the status quo, don't you agree?
yes.
Yeah.
And this whole process that you described is a very delicate act right now. Keeping what's good, not moving too fast, getting rid of what's not good. Of course, one is going to get a reaction from the bad organisms, just like if you've got a bad infection and you must take antibiotics. You
Mhm.
must. Well, when all those bad organisms begin to die off, you're not going to feel good, and there's going to be a lot of complaining. We're
Yeah.
seeing that right now.
Indeed.
Certain key figures come to my mind. Elizabeth Warren,
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer.
Yeah. Yeah, and people of their sort. I mean, there's a whole
Yes,
cabal of them, but
people who
or
exist
gaggle,
off
we'll
the
say.
graft of what we've been doing every April 16th for the last, 114, 15 years. Completely unconstitutional. This goes back to my assertion about this founding document of ours being the best thing I've ever seen. No, the writers weren't perfect. Who is perfect? Jesus Christ is not even perfect, if you want to go there. Oh, Father, take away this burden.
Well, people would argue with you, but it depends on your definition of perfection, right?
There you go. Hence Shakespeare's quote, let's kill all the lawyers first.
Hmm.
And these people change the definitions. Hell, the people who stormed the Bastille, who were they? Liberals. Fast forward how many years? Now to the new age of enlightenment. Who are the liberals now? Warren, Elizabeth Warren, and Chuck Schumer, the bad players who sit on their fat ass, get paid by Pfizer and all the other
Bernie
Depop.
Sanders.
What's that?
Bernie Sanders. I felt like I
Yeah,
we have to mention him
Bernie
too.
Sanders. The people. I work for the people. Wow.
I don't trust Bernie. I never did, really. You know, I mean, it's like
No, I never
socialist
did
dude, you know.
either. Yeah. But here we are. I'm pinching myself, George,
Yeah.
every day. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I'm glad I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
And I'm doing what I can to help, which means, and this goes back to teaching, my career in teaching,
Okay.
specifically working with middle schoolers.
Yeah.
There is a whole psychology, and I'm with the character in the 1950 movie Harvey. The main character is Elwood P. Dowd. Elwood is the most pleasant man. He may disagree with you, but you would take him home if he needed a warm bed to sleep. He is so pleasant and friendly and truly an adorable. So one always understands to carry that type of disposition, as pissed off as one may be. It's very important that when we do spend the time and energy to use words to try and communicate, it has to be done in such a way that other people can receive those words. I live coastal Northern California. I'm surrounded by people who are branded with the Democrat Party.
Uh-huh.
And unless I maintain this understanding when I speak with them and with everybody, it's just a matter of recognizing one's common humanity and decency, you know. So this is a time where it's really, I think, important to maintain that Maitreya. Oops, he said it. It's a spirit of friendship until proven otherwise. I'm not obligated to be friendly to those who wish me harm. Okay? I'm not obligated to turn the other cheek. I'm not a Christian, by the way, for the record. Anyone listening
Yeah.
to this, George already knows this, my friend, older brother George, whose name means earth, by the way. George, earth. Terra Hugh. But a spirit of friendship is always advised, I would opine, and I take this from Elwood P. Dowd in the great movie Harvey, which also involves, by the way, a needle and a vaccine, Formula 997. I'll cut to the chase. I don't want to spoil this for anyone listening who decides to seek out this great movie. Jimmy Stewart plays Elwood P. Dowd. But there at the end, when he's just about to get inoculated with Formula 997, his sister goes knocking on the door. No, no, stop. Don't inoculate my brother. I don't want him to be that way, to be a stinker of a human being. This is what the cab driver tells her. They're out at a insane asylum that Elwood gets taken to because Elwood keeps introducing his best friend to everyone, an invisible 6'7" white rabbit, a puka. This is Elwood's best friend. Anyway, they commit him, etc. They try to commit him. Nothing works against Elwood. And he's saved at the buzzer by his own sister, who's tired of living with the white rabbit. When she pleads to the doctor, no, don't inject him with Formula 997, the cab driver who drove us out here to commit Elwood just told me, lady, you're not going to like your brother after he gets shot up with the shit they shoot out here. Maha, make America healthy again. Dr. Fauci, I sent you a Valentine's Day card. Did you get it? You didn't? Okay, it says this, you make my heart stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. You know, reflecting on Bobby
Yes.
and his role,
Yes.
he had to walk a very, very fine line to get
Oh my gosh.
confirmed. And I tend to think, and this we'll see how it works out, but you know, he suppose this was my thought. Suppose med beds are released. Well, that just kills the pharmaceutical industry. Bam, you know. It's
Kills
like,
it.
yeah, but he has to be there not as an initiator of anything radical, no, but a facilitator. He has to say,
Yes.
well, you know what? This is going to make us healthier.
To keep himself safe.
Yeah.
So that this beautiful advancement can move forward for all of humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, you know, so this goes back to that thought about our leaders.
Yes.
It's not like you elect a leader and, you know, and then Trump appoints his cabinet, which he's done a good job, I think, but this time,
Listen, every
not so much the
single
first time.
one of his nominees. They've been getting on base. It's like a damn Bruce Bochy batting order.
Yeah.
They've moved the line, every single one of them. I think Cash is next.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing what he will do.
Yeah. Quote, I'm going to turn the FBI office building into a deep state museum. Good. Good.
Sure.
We're tired of these people. Mean spirited, opposite of Maitreya. Mean spirited individuals. Be gone.
Yeah. To define for us what Maitreya means, because not everybody listening may know that.
Well, this is simply means friendship. The alliance of strangers in this chaotic time,
Yeah.
the alliance of well meaning strangers, i.e., those who recognize the inherent goodness of humanity. We are good life creatures.
Excuse me, everyone. A little bit of a cough. Okay, we have slightly less than 10 minutes, then we're going to have to rinse and repeat, recycle,
Yes.
do part two. But I'm going to grab my.
Boy, that went fast.
Yes, it did. It did for sure. Well, I'm up for, as many as 3 sessions if you want to go that far.
Sure. We've just gotten the chainsaw warmed up.
Indeed, yes. Hey, let's see. Let me do something with my clock here. Hmm. Timer. Let me give it like 8 minutes, and then it'll go beep beep, and I don't know if it will be heard on the microphone. It's kind of a noise canceling thing, and
Right.
it might, but my ears will hear it, and I'll say, "We need to wind this up and come back in a couple of minutes."
Okay.
All right. So yeah, we were talking about all that stuff, and you mentioned the IRS earlier. Yeah, I can't wait till they get
Yeah.
rid of that thing.
Yeah.
Which I have a 90-page document that talks about how illegal and unconstitutional it is and what a
Oh
criminal
my God.
organization, and people
Yeah.
have used that to say, leave me the F alone,
Yeah.
successfully. And I was going to send it in, and my friend who's a lawyer but not an attorney, he says, "Oh, no,
Right.
no, no, the IRS is your best friend. File all your taxes, blah blah blah." Well, but he's kind of halfway on our side. He's like, "Yeah, and you can get all your taxes refunded if you know what paperwork to file."
Right. Right.
So, which he does. So that's okay. But then even the fact that you have to do all that filing is just ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a
And if
unreasonable
you don't
imposition.
file, it's you're breaking the law.
No, you're not. There is no law. There is no positive, dispositive law that says you have to file. It's all voluntary, but they will
Hmm.
come up with all sorts of nonsense. So
Yeah.
this document that I have, it's mostly um, consists of um, arguments that were used or
Yeah.
accounts of cases in which people were sued by the IRS, or conversely, they got a letter saying you owe $10 million in taxes when they didn't earn that much money in their entire lives.
Yeah.
And they took the IRS to court. And some of it is, of course, judgments, whereby the case was won by the victim person, and the IRS was told where to shove their nonsense by the
Yeah.
judge.
Yeah.
So it's like if you send that information to the IRS, it's basically saying, look, I know all this
Yeah.
and we'll use it against you if you take me to court. So buzz
Right.
off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
A
don't want to get too deeply into that, but it's
no.
like Donald Trump knows this stuff. He's not going to
Yes,
say a
he
lot of it
does.
publicly, but he's just like, well, we need to get rid of this fraudulent criminal nonsense, this lawfare against the people.
Yeah.
And the fact that they did all the lawfare against him, well,
Yeah.
they'll do it that much more readily to random people out here in the so-called public,
Yeah.
And yeah, I know for a fact that they do it, have done it. They're doing it even in Republican states. It's like, oh, Well, so like one person I know of, and a very, very simple version of his story, but he got stopped for some traffic infraction, and they wanted
Right.
him in court on a particular date. He had a heart attack, had to have heart surgery and a pacemaker installed, and was still in the hospital on his court date. And he sent the judge a notice, saying, "Well, this is what's going on with me, so I
Yeah.
request a continuance." The judge denied it. The judge took away
Uh,
his license. So then, before he was able to get his license restored, he was going to the grocery store and got stopped, and then ended up in court for um, driving without a license.
right.
And so that evolved to the point that the judge said, "Be in court on this date. I'm going to sentence you to 2 years in prison without a trial." And he got his doctor to send the judge an order, a medical order, saying this guy needs 6 months of rest. And the judge said, "Oh, I don't have to recognize that, and I'm going to investigate the doctor."
Mm,
So this is the nonsense that's going on. Now, fortunately, I think my friend has found a way to tangle the court up in a knot and probably send the judge and the prosecuting attorney to prison, because of the absolute nonsense they're doing. You have to find the right higher authority
right.
to appeal to, who will, yeah, and you do it in the right way, that they
Right.
can't get away with just ignoring you, because they'll do that
Exactly.
too.
Exactly.
So
It's
the
all ass backward.
yeah, yeah, it's like they're supposed to protect citizens' constitutional rights, but
Yeah.
they've arranged by subterfuge to put us in a position where our rights really don't exist.
We are currently and have been living in this semi quasi science fiction like scenario. What you're describing, which is reality,
Yeah.
it's like this fucked up science fiction nightmare segment.
Nightmare dystopia, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that you know, uh, that's what it's. I read old science fiction now, and stuff that was written 50, 60 years ago, and it is spot on
Mm.
about what has happened. Short story by Kurt Vonnegut I read a few weeks ago. Oh my gosh, George.
Mm.
I should scan it and send it to you. It's very brief. You can read it in 20 minutes. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
That thing nails this whole DEI and this attempt at trying to make everyone equal. It is amazing short story. I'll send it to you email if
Mm.
you
Okay.
find it an effective de-brainwashing about this subject. You can post it on Substack, which, by the way, is an absolutely phenomenal, in my experience, platform of just not only regular individuals posting information, excellent regular individuals, but seasoned writers like Seymour Hersh is on Substack. Seymour Hersh broke, for those who may not know, the My Lai massacre story in Vietnam. He recently on Substack published an article which basically proved Biden blew